as you know, that anytime there's a niche in a market, there's everybody out there looking to make a buck, and there's so many companies launching their products and gadgets, from necklaces to organite pyramids,
Yeah.
and oh my goodness, talk about fake
Yeah.
disinformation and dangerous
I think I
information.
think you in the United States you talk about snake oil, and that's a
Yes.
very good expression, you know. And as you say, there are a number of products out there that doesn't do anything apart from rip you off your money. And I always tell people, if you are insecure about the quality and of a product, always ask the company for independent replications of research data showing that the product actually functions, and you should have independent replications of these observations, and the best would be from several different laboratories. And I will tell you, every time I ask companies with all these pendulums and pyramids and whatever, they have nothing to send to you. Whereas serious companies, they would immediately say, oh yes, we have this report. Like I mentioned, this RP of Sweden, I know they would immediately send you measurement evaluation from a completely independent entity, namely a company in Finland called Verkotan, which is one of the world leaders when it comes to measuring electromagnetic fields. And then you can sit down and feel confident that, yes, this case for my smartphone will do what the company actually says. But if you cannot find any documentation, my advice is to not buy it, actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. My biggest concern, when there are folks out there who are even advocating these types of products, I've seen along the way, I'll, try to diplomatically say, we're kind of doing the same thing together, and we need to make sure we put nothing but truth as closely as we can identify it out there. Otherwise, we're doing such a disservice. And to use these products or promote them can provide a false sense of security.
Yeah.
That, I put this little sticker on my cell phone to protect
Yeah.
my child's phone. No.
Yeah.
Ma.
And then, 30 years down the line, the child has grown up and become a young man or woman, and suddenly their GP says, I'm sorry, I have something really nasty to tell you. You have a brain tumor. And the question is, who is then responsible? And from a moral and ethical point of view, if you have sold them snake oil, no, that's not good,
Right, right. And such a good point. And thank you so much for this education, Ole. You're such a treasure in this world. I really, really appreciate it. And I can't wait to share this information with as many folks as we can. But as we kind of get into closing a little bit, I'd love to ask, I know you are so busy and you're continuing your research and discovering new things. Is there anything that's kind of lighting you up these days about what you're finding, what you're uncovering? What would you like to share with us coming from your work right now?
Well, I'm living in Sweden, and by nature, we are all depressed, more or less, so we rarely have any positive news. But I think one thing that is very positive and makes me very happy is actually people like yourself. And there are so very many out there that produces independent news. It could be like video blogs or text blogs or interview programs or news channels. And there is such a tremendous amount. And they are, as you are, real experts. They ask the real important questions and they inform the general population. And more, I see that people are waking up. And yesterday, believe it or not, I took the underground here in Stockholm, the subway, and it was such a lovely dog. So I had to hug the dog, But then the owner said, hey, are you not Olle Johansson? Yeah, you are the expert on 5G, aren't you? Well, expert, I don't know, but I know a little bit about it. And then I suddenly realized that this man knew who I was. He knew about the research. And when I looked around in this crowded subway car, everyone was listening. Everyone.
Wow. It's like when someone whispers, everyone's listening. Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, that is great. And people can be afraid to broach the question, but if someone else breaks the ice, they can go,
Yeah.
like a dog, cock
Yeah.
their ear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And also, I would say what we talked about before, I see more and more impacts being made by both commercial but also non-commercial actors that are looking for solutions of various types. And I'm sure within a few years, the whole market will look different. And finally, also, I would like to lift my hat for all lawyers, judges, attorneys, and so forth that right now are pushing for legal claims and legal settlements, which are extremely important. And as you know, for instance, in Italy, here in Europe, several cases have been brought to their Supreme Court and been won, meaning that the brain tumor cases have been legally said to be due to the cell phone and forming a precedence. And of course, in Italy, as in Sweden, being a patient with a brain tumor and winning a case, you don't get very much. I mean, you get some money and a pat on your shoulder, but coming back to your country, wow, that's another ballpark, I mean, now we're talking big money. So I knew there are a lot of lawyers preparing such court cases for the American courts of law. And if they would win, well, then we're talking, as I say, big, big money, and that could put a real push onto the market, and already has. I mean, as we said before, all the major players, apart from society, has actually abandoned ship. And that includes the manufacturers, the operators, the radiation protection authorities, the insurance and reinsurance companies. And on this ship are right now only the consumers and their governments and parliaments. And I see, like in the United States, the American lawyers, they have changed their focus from the industry to the society, actually. And in a sense, that will make the whole situation, I don't know the proper English word, but it will be a little bit awkward, because patients will then demand compensation from themselves, because in Sweden and United States, all these governmental offices and so on are paid by taxpayers. So we will sort of get money from ourselves when the time comes. And of course, don't get me wrong, if I could pray to God, which I do every evening, I rather would like to be wrong. I rather would like God to prove me completely wrong, and all other scientists. But while we are talking here, I'm sure one or two new papers have appeared in my computer. And so it seems as if we are right, I'm afraid.
absolutely. More good points. And I would just like to piggyback on that with a brief mention to those of you who hopefully are listening with an open heart and mind right now. And if you are in a position, whether you're a school administrator, a manufacturer of wireless technology in any capacity, if you are in a position to even make a small difference to improve the situation, that it would be a good thing to consider, because I would like to share that if you are, and if you choose to continue with your blind eye and you choose to do nothing, you are at a real risk of being held personally and individually liable through the process of the notice of liability. And I know of many groups out there who are polishing this process to get it out there, and that is held above the courts. It's in the jurisdiction of commerce, above the judges, above the legislators, and it holds these people individually liable. And I just wanted to mention that out there, that it's something that they should have in the back of their mind to look into, because it's a real process that they can find more information.
Also, when the end of the final day comes, the only thing we can bring with us into the afterlife is our reputation. And I rather die with a good reputation than knowing that I morally and ethically did something wrong.
Absolutely. What a great point to make. And thank you for stating that. That's, you just have to look at yourself in the mirror and allow yourself, hopefully you can sleep peacefully. But Olle, I know that you've been so busy and you're quite in demand for interviews. That's why it's so precious for you to spend time with us today. But I wanted to ask you, if you have a question that you would love for someone to ask you and they haven't asked you yet, what would it be?
Oh, wow, that's a very difficult one.
Yeah.
I mean, you have covered so much ground, and what people actually try to pin me down, I would call it, sometimes in a grim way, but more often in a nice way. And that's the question, do you have a cell phone of your own?
Oh, good
And
one.
then it's so easy to reply to that because I have never, ever owned a cell phone. And that has nothing to do with anything we have talked about today. Because when cell phones were introduced in Sweden, and that would be in the beginning of the 1980s, they were very big and bulky. And as your viewers can see, I'm not a strong man, I couldn't lift such a big thing and carry it around. And also they were extremely expensive. In today's money, they could cost easily like 3, 4, 5,000 US dollars. And I'm not a rich man, so I couldn't afford it. But I also noticed that only really very important people use them. And then, as now, I'm completely unimportant. I just don't need it. And,
You're very
after all,
humble.
yeah, I mean, I live my life. I wake up, I go to bed, I sleep, I eat my breakfast, lunch, and dinner completely undisturbed. By the way, there is no phone signals in my back pocket. And I manage to pay my bills and go to the cinema and everything. So you can very easily get along. And I'm always, from a philosophical point of view, looking for needs in society, and I'm surprised that people create needs instead of looking for real needs. And as I say, I respect everyone that needs a cell phone, no question about it, but I don't.
Very good. I'm glad you did that too. And also on that note, in full disclosure, I was around with those big phones, and back as a realtor, I felt like I needed to have one of those in the trunk of my car. And I did. I mean, this is talking about what, 30, 40 years ago
Yeah,
even. And we have a not so smart phone that is always either off or in airplane mode and put away in a drawer and only used in emergencies, in the car, whatever. Like the accident we were in, 90% sure that we were hit by a driver who was texting, which, by the way, is involved. There are more accidents. I heard from one of the presenters, I believe in Josh Del Sol's 5G Crisis Summit. He was a doctor, and he gave a presentation that he did a study comparing the number of accidents where alcohol or drugs were involved versus electronics, texting.
yeah,
And there are more,
yeah,
not surprisingly, with the texting. And why do they not have, why can't we pull someone over, report someone if they're texting while driving? It should be
yeah.
every bit as illegal as drinking, in my opinion. And I think we're going to be getting there. But so
I mean, you already have actually in a few countries bans on texting while driving. So it's coming, but as you say, it should be in every country immediately.
exactly. So when I'm president, I'm going to run on that ticket.
Well, I saw this fantastic video on YouTube from your neighboring country, Canada. It was from a shopping mall, and there is a lady, she's texting while walking, and it ends up she tipping over into the water fountain.
Yes.
Nothing more happened, but it's kind of funny. And
I've
then I
seen
thought,
that.
wow, she should be happy it wasn't the lorry that actually hit her, It was just water in the fountain.
Exactly. I know. And that should have been literally the wake up call. I have a cartoon meme where there's like stoplights are embedded in the sidewalk of a city street. So all the people who are texting can see because they don't look up to see the street lights.
No, and that's also disturbing, I must say,
It
when
is.
I move around in Stockholm. It's a little bit like a 1950s Hollywood movie, because everyone looks, except for me then, like zombies. And
Apocalypse.
they're
It's
glued to their
apocalyptic.
smartphones, and
Yes.
they walk around and they are completely controlled. And it looks very, very strange, very odd.
It it does. It does. And I keep thinking I'm going to do a film called The E-Apocalypse, and just all these zombies, and
Yeah,
that's very much like that is so disturbing. I went by a school, walked by where a bunch of kids, high schoolers, were waiting for the bus, and there were about 8 or 9 of them, and they were all sitting very close together, every one of them on the phone. And I
yeah,
thought, what are they missing? And I've heard a teenager saying, "Oh, it makes me nervous to think about calling someone. I can text them, and I'm much more comfortable because I
yeah,
don't have that intimate interaction that I would even on the cell phone of calling them." And which you should
yeah.
never put it to your head, but yeah.
Well,
So
it's a crazy new world, so it's different to what I was used to when I grew up.
it is.
And I hope everyone is content and happy with it.
Yes,
But maybe in the future, there will be a bill presented to the table. And then, as we said before, don't call any insurance or reinsurance company, don't call the manufacturers and the operators, because they abandoned ship so many years ago.
absolutely. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Not my job. Absolutely.
No.
So yeah, they've relieved themselves of liability, and
Yeah,
they've covered them. But there are others who could do something about it, and that's why I
yeah.
like the idea of the notice of liability. So, well, we hope. I believe that we've raised a lot of information, hopefully piqued some curiosity, where people might even question what they've heard, but they're going to see if they can find out. And I always invite people, if you find something, if I have presented any information that you believe is inaccurate, I would welcome you to send me a private message and let me know, as long as you provide non-industry sponsored, credible reference link that supports your view. And if after I look at it, I will issue a retraction, apology, whatever, because I try to do my best, but you never know. But
Well,
I would like
that
to.
goes for me too, If
Yes.
something would be wrong, I would actually be happy, as I said before, because I really would like to be completely wrong.
Right. We
And
learn
I
about
would
it.
like to stand up and say it's safe. No reason for any worry. But today, I just cannot do that.
Absolutely. Understand. So, in closing, Oli, I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for our children. Thank you so much for all
Well,
you've
the
shared
same.
and all
Thank you
you
very
are
much.
and do. And for those of you listening, if you feel that the content was worthy and deserving, would like to, Oli would probably hope you're okay with my mentioning, but we'll include a link to a fundraising campaign being done to help fund Oli's research. It's so valuable, and it will keep him going with the good stuff. So please consider contributing. No amount too small would be wonderful. Very much appreciated. And
Yeah.
also, if you want to click on link, like, and subscribe, you'll know when more content of this nature is being posted on this channel. And share with your friends, please, for our children. So thank you very much,
Thank
Oli.
you very much
It's
indeed.
been a
Thank you.
pleasure. Bye for now.